value chain is a set of enterprises and stakeholders along the range of activities required to bring a product from the initial supply stage to its final market destination. Why was this evaluation important?
The topic is important globally to the extent that traditional food systems are replaced by organized value chains. Smallholders producers are still responsible for a large part of food production, but they receive a disproportionately low percentage of a market value. IFAD's composition of the portfolio changed in the past years, and whereas value chain relevant projects only were 41% of IFAD projects approved in the period of 2007-2009, this percentage raised to 72% in the period 2016-2018.
What are the performance and results of value chain projects?
Our evaluation has covered 77 projects in 29 countries through a combination of desk reviews and field visits. We could say that the most convincing cases, the strongest performance cases, have some elements in common. The first element is that these projects are the result of a long-term cooperation between the government and IFAD. Both the government and IFAD have built knowledge of the area, of the production potential, and of the market demand. This has facilitated the design of projects which were more closely focusing on value chain development. The second element common to all these successful projects was that they were directly involved in supporting value chain governance. Value chain governance relates to the relationships between value chain stakeholders. And these projects have worked on building trust among stakeholders. They've built a forum for discussion of markets and exchange conditions, for example, the setting of prices, and also on creating an environment where disputes could be resolved.
Can IFAD reach the very poor through value chain approaches?
Our evaluation suggests that by and large this is possible. However, a number of conditions were attached to these results. First, it was important to select commodities. Second, it was useful when projects were working with agribusinesses, and conditionality was made so that these agribusinesses had strong incentives to work with very poor producers and very poor farmers. 3, it was also conducive to reach very poor people when traditional interventions on community development were matched with other interventions to support marketing and access to value chains. There were also factors more detrimental to reaching out to very poor people. One of them was when agribusinesses were allowed to select on their own, without the project intervention, the producers from which they would source produce. Second was when trickle-down effects were simply assumed rather than being explicitly promoted by projects.
As we have seen, this evaluation finds that IFAD has accumulated a great deal of experience in supporting value chain development, although not evenly distributed among countries. The main recommendation of the evaluation is that IFAD should develop a corporate strategy, one that explains the goals and purpose of this approach, and in addition, it explains also how to adapt and adopt a long-term programmatic approach with multiple phases in which the smallholder farmers can be supported in their participation in markets and longer value chains. It also would enable to establish the mechanisms for the participation of the poorer segments of the population in the value chain, as well as the provision of financing services for value chain development. With these recommendations, IFAD would be in a much better position to support a truly inclusive and sustainable transformation of the rural area. Thank you.